And I have to say something here, by the way. I've got to try to warn, before it's too late and can't be fixed, something dangerous about the Voice. That's Labor's plan for a kind of unelected Aboriginal-only parliament in our constitution. Well, that something dangerous became very obvious today. The big fear has been that the government's going to have to consult the Voice, not just about specific Aboriginal policies like the government says, but about anything at all. The words that Labor wants us to vote on leave that wide open. It knows it. In fact, even the government knows it so well that it's a danger that 2 weeks ago, Attorney-General Mark Dreyfus went to the Aboriginal Referendum Working Group that's designing this Voice for the government to beg them to change the wording. And he even took the Solicitor-General, Stephen Donoghue, along with him to underline that this Voice is just going to be too powerful and will bog down the government. Well, the working group told them to go jump, and the government just caved in, didn't change the wording. Now, since then, the government has refused for no good reason to release the legal opinion of the Solicitor-General on Labor's planned change to our constitution. That's suspicious enough. But today, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, well, he refused 3 times to admit that this Voice will have a wider remit than has been saying. And one thing in Parliament became very clear today. If this Voice gets up, the government is going to have to consult on almost anything at all, including defence. And Albanese does not dare admit that dangerous truth. Instead, today he filibustered every time he was asked, never once gave a straight answer. Watch him squirm.
In the Prime Minister's press conference yesterday, in response to a question about the scope of the Voice's powers, the Prime Minister said, and I quote, "The Voice is not about defence policy, it's not about foreign affairs policy." Prime Minister, what other matters are excluded from the remit of the Voice?
If the parliament is going to make laws about Indigenous people should be consulted about those laws.
Can the Prime Minister confirm, quote, "The Voice is not about defence policy, it's not about foreign affairs policy"?
I've worked with Indigenous leaders and constitutional conservatives to find a constitutional way to make better policy.
Will the Voice need to be consulted on defence and foreign affairs matters?
The question that will be asked is a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice.
See, he had to read his answers and didn't actually answer the question. This Voice will have influence over all aspects of government. He knows it, otherwise he would have said the opposite. Something racist and dangerous is being unleashed on Australia that will totally change the way we are governed. One race will have extra power over every other race through a new advisory sort of parliament in the Constitution. And you know it's dangerous because, as you saw, the Prime Minister refuses to tell you what's really planned.